the starter kit for Americans. It's like you go to college, you go to college, you get a good job, you retire, and you buy a house, and you have the American dream. Everyone can be successful.
Yeah.
So that was the default loop, I call. Like, people in life often put projections of how we're supposed to be. So as I was in college and after college, I was like, okay, I got this college degree. What do I do with it? Oh, so I get his job. And I started noticing like a lot of the workplaces that I was in, there were some great ones. There were also the majority very challenging ones. I was like, this is not me. I'm not wired to be this way. And I would often ask my mother, like, why am I so different? Why am I so different? Like, I see leadership deficiencies. I'm like, okay, why are they leading this way? This is ineffective. And I started, when I would get hired to these places, they would often say, we want leaders who take initiative. We want people who are proactive. I would do the exact same thing that they asked me for, but yet met with retaliation or even hostility when I would bring things up and say, hey, could we do this a little bit better? It's like, no, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. So when I started experiencing those things, I was like, why am I doing this? And I don't feel like I'm flourishing as a human first and as a worker second. So I started questioning the system, and I realized I wasn't meant to be in a system. I was created to create a system. I achieved a lot of accolades. I was top salesperson. I had all the awards. I have awards behind me. As far as like impacting the community, I've gotten awards. So it's just like I've achieved all these accolades. My name etched in stone in the stadium. My pictures all over. Being in different magazines. So on the physical side, on paper, with a lot of high performers, on paper I was successful, but on the inside I was like, this is meaningless. Like, I'm thankful in the moment. Hey, I achieved these things, top salesperson, growing in my leadership and influence from entry level all the way to like the middle management and senior management. I'm like, okay, I'm thankful for it. But at the same time, too, it didn't feel anything up inside me, and I felt empty. I was in that loop myself because I believe what we're exposed to and immersed in, we start to embody. So I started to embody that default loop. Every year I'm doing something that doesn't bring me joy. I'm doing something that I'm not using my giftings. I'm not really living my purpose. I'm trying to fit in a system, in a place where I really don't fit in, but I'm making a lot of money. So I'm like, okay, like this is the way life is supposed to be versus starting to design life. And that's the difference between, I believe, living a life by default and living a life by design. Default is I'm in the passenger seat of my life, and whatever happens to me, I'm just accepting without questioning. Designing is like, what intentionally can I design and facilitate and cultivate that actually brings me joy? The signs and symptoms that you'll notice if you're living in a default loop is if you react more than respond. And the difference between those two things, if somebody says something and you're quick to have a rebuttal, that's a quick sign versus pause, reflect. Oh, what did you mean by that? So when someone's in that default loop, they're very reactive. Another thing, when a default loop, they're highly sensitive to whatever is happening in their external world. So if politics are the thing that is driving and current events, now they're feeling the emotions and they're being swayed by everything that is happening around them versus being anchored and saying, hold on, wait a minute, what's happening here? There's two stories being told. Which one is trying to pull me emotionally? So, and then the last step of understanding the symptoms and the signals is if we're consuming more than we're creating. So when someone's in a default loop, they're constantly consuming things, they're scrolling, they're inputting versus what are they creating? Are they creating relationships that are helpful? Are they creating products, systems, teams, products, all those things? So once we're living in design, we're creating, but if we're living in default, we're typically consuming, complaining, comparing. But when we're in design, we're creating, collaborating, cultivating, and celebrating others. I believe that life is about learning and unlearning. We learn the things in one season, and maybe in the next season it doesn't help us. So we have to unlearn it to learn something else to get us to that next place. So if we start embodying the 5C model, reflecting and assessing our capacity, our competency, our courage, our connection, and our curiosity, I believe we'll start designing a life of clarity.